Hi guys, so this is going to be the presentation on topic selection and development. This is chapter 11 and communicate, specifically pages 246 through 260. The rest of the chapter has to do with research and we'll cover that later, so just focus on this part for now. And we're going to be going into more detail about what we talked about in the speech basics, particularly when it comes to how to choose your topic and how to develop that topic. So pre-writing for speech, a lot of the topics in this chapter might feel like they're challenging to understand, but it's really just about getting the basic ideas for your speech on the page. When writing an essay, we call this pre-writing. So why should we pre-write? Well, doing a little initial brainstorming and outlining ahead of time will help you to get a better idea of what you want to say, organize your thoughts, make discovery, and save a lot of time and effort later. I know a lot of people like to look at the pre-writing step and feel like it's more effort than it's worth, but it's really not. The number one thing I see in speeches, and what I have to take the most points off, are structural elements that are missing because the student didn't do pre-writing. They just got in front of the camera and started talking about this topic. So what happens when you just start talking about a topic? Well, you tend to have your thoughts very scattered, first of all. You might not start at the right point. You might not have a thesis statement. You're probably not going to have an audience relevant statement. You may or may not have an attention getter. And you're very likely to repeat yourself several times throughout the speech. Let's say that you're doing a narrative speech. Narrative speech is a story. Well, if you don't do any pre-writing, you're more likely to start at the beginning. Well, it all started when? But that doesn't tell the audience why they should listen to the speech or what message. That information normally, the starting of the story normally actually is in the first body paragraph. You need some preliminary information, right? So the pre-writing steps help you to get a sense of how to organize your information, what you want to say, and where to put it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is kind of come up with some main ideas. So you're going to want to select a general topic, assess your audience. So what is your audience expecting you to hear about? What do they already know about the topic? What might they want to know? And then customize your topic for your audience and the occasion so that it's appropriate for the reason that you're giving the speech. In this class, there's not a whole lot of reasons to do that. Of course, you still want to be professional and be aware that you're talking to your teacher. And the occasion is going to be, well, I asked you or assigned for you to write a speech. So you're not going to be thinking as much about that as you might in real life. But in real life, let's say you're giving a presentation at a conference. Well, the occasion is going to be that conference. Your audience is going to be people interested in your academic topic. And so you're going to want to kind of assess their level of knowledge and create your speech around that. And then the next step is to create a goal statement. A goal statement's really simple. I think I go into it on the next page, but no, I don't. But goal statement is my goal in the speech is to blank. So from there, you want to generate a rough list of potential topics. So just a very rough list of things that you're interested in or you're comfortable talking about. Some ideas might be careers, hobbies, passions, family or cultural topics, interest. If you're giving a speech for a specific occasion, then think about the reason that you're there. Why are you there to give that speech? And then kind of narrow that down to 2 or 3 options that you're most interested in talking about. So some common strategies for pre-writing are thinking and brainstorming, listing, questioning, and mind mapping or graphic organizers. Thinking and brainstorming are really simple. They're normally the first step. A lot of people forget to talk about thinking when it comes to pre-writing, but it really is a form of pre-writing. If you're thinking about what you want to give your speech on, say in the car or in the shower, that is a form of pre-writing. It's just the very first form of it. I cannot tell you how many essays I mentally wrote on my commute to and from Jacksonville when I was a student. I had an hour-and-a-half drive each way. And it was like, that was my essay planning time, was during my drive there and back. So thinking is, you might imagine a conversation or talk to yourself in the car or the shower, and it's really just about thinking up ideas, kind of getting a sense of things you might want to say. Then brainstorming, I like to call it thinking with a pencil. It's a slightly more formal form of thinking. It's when you actually start writing down your ideas, making notes on them, maybe doing a little bit of free writing. And free writing is when you just kind of put your pencil to paper, your fingers to the keyboard, and write whatever comes out. It's not in any kind of structured way. It's just to kind of get some ideas on the page that you'll then go back and organize to make your speech. So listing is often really disorganized at first. I live with bulleted lists, and at first when I write them down, they don't really have any kind of structure to them. They're just things as they come, but then I go back and organize them. Maybe a better way of looking at it would be grocery shopping. So, you're grocery shopping, making a list to go grocery shopping, and maybe you're doing it off the top of your head. Oh God, I need milk, eggs, and butter. Or maybe you're kind of looking through your fridge and making notes. Okay, I'm out of this and that. And then you go through your pantry and I'm out of this and that. And then mentally or otherwise, you probably go back and you think, okay, let me group these items together in the way that they're laid out in the store so that I can get them more quickly. Well, listing for a speech works in a similar way. You often start out with just a bunch of ideas that may or may not be related, and then you go back and you organize them to make them a little closer to an outline for the speech that you're going to give. So the first step is to make a list of relevant ideas or connections. So it can help to write the topic at the top of the page and then write down anything you can think of that's related to the topic. And then go back and circle anything you want to use and cross out what you don't want to use. T-organizers are a type of list. This is a more formal approach to listing. So you write the topic at the top of the page, underline it, then draw a vertical line down the center of the page and create 2 columns or lists. These are good for compare-contrast essays or speeches and pro and con lists. So one of your columns might be pros, one might be cons, one might be similarities, one might be differences, things like that. So here's an example T-organizer. So the topic is immigration in 1900, and I took it from here. But advantages were these: hope for a new life, chance of land of opportunity, jobs, religious and political freedom. And then the disadvantages were that the individual might not ever see their family again, they need to learn a new language, the land is unfamiliar and unknown, and they're leaving their homeland. So you can see that there's an advantages, disadvantages, and then the topic at the top. So that's what a T-organizer looks like. Questioning is another method, and this works well for speeches because it's already geared toward writing for an audience. It's also known as the journalistic method, and it's when you ask yourself questions related to the topic. So, who am I writing this for? What am I writing about? Where did the event take place? When did it take place? Why did it take place? How did the event come about, if you're writing about an event? You could also do who is involved instead of who am I writing this for. Really, you should do both. But this can help you to answer some kind of preliminary questions about your topic and get you a better sense of that basic information that will help you to be more familiar with your topic and then go from there in writing and organizing the speech. Mind maps are my personal least favorite, but I know a lot of visual learners like them. That's when you write the topic in the center of the page and circle it, and then you draw out a web of related ideas from the center circle, and then circle the related ideas, and then draw lines from those to create connections, and then repeat until you have a picture of the ideas and the connections. So this is an example mind map related to sports. So you can see sports is in the center, and you have water sports, and you have different kinds of water sports, and then you have individual sports and different kinds of individual sports, contact sports, and team sports. What I personally don't like about this is that you may end up with things in multiple categories, and it's difficult to see how they're connected. So you see you have football in both team and contact. You have basketball in both team and contact, but you can't really see that they overlap. And so personally, I find it more difficult and more overwhelming that way. But as I said, a lot of people do like it, so if it works for you, use it. Venn diagrams, these are one of my favorite. They're not really pre-writing, but they can be. So it's good for seeing relationships in contrast. So you draw 2 overlapping circles and label them. And then you write the common traits in the part where the circles overlap. And you write differences in the parts where the circles don't overlap. There's some really amusing ones online. One of my favorites has to do with choosing the right class, and it's like the right class, you know, is either bad for your schedule or involves a really, really difficult professor or is at impossible o'clock in the morning. So you can see a lot of them are like that, where you're comparing different similar things. So here's an example Venn diagram that's really simple. So how are bats and birds alike and different? So in the center, you have that they both have 2 legs, they're vertebrate, warm-blooded, their forelimbs are modified as wings. They're different in that bats have live young, teeth, and fur, and birds lay eggs, have a beak and feathers instead of teeth and fur. And so this can kind of help you quickly organize ideas when you're doing a comparison or a contrast. So the next step, let me see here. Let's stop here because this is kind of towards the end of the pre-writing, and then I will come back with assess your audience and we will go from there. That way we don't risk running out of time. I'll be right back.